Grimwick, the Demon Cat. Book 3, The Tournament. Chapter 20, Penelope versus Norbert. Penelope walked up to her side of the stage, and Grimwick and Norbert walked up to theirs. Penelope is one of the top students and beat her first opponent with just one spell. Norbert was the worst student in the academy and barely survived the first round. Norbert doubted that they could beat her, but that didn't stop Grimwick from formulating ideas as they walked up to their starting position. And that gave Norbert some confidence that they might have a chance. "She's not going to hit us hard," Grimwick started. "She's going to be easy on you. She's going to try to immobilize us like her first opponent. Expect her to start with that gust of wind spell. Cast your shield right from the start. When she stops, drop your shield and I'll fire a blast at her. We'll keep that patterned up just like we practiced." Soon Norbert was in his starting position and Vine stood off just to the side. Penelope was trained on Vine to watch for her hand drop. Norbert noticed Vine had a faint smile on her face, and then she spoke, "Begin," and dropped her hand. Just as Grimwick had predicted, Penelope fired a gust of wind. Norbert created a shield, but the wind was strong and pushed him back several paces. Though Arthur's fire was hot and intense, Penelope's wind spell had more consistent strength to it. It took no time at all for her to cast the spell, and she fired 2 more blasts. Each blast scooted Norbert further and further back towards the edge of the arena. "Drop the shield when she puts her casting arm up in the air. That's her tell," Grimwick yelled. Penelope fired again, and for a brief moment her hand was out of position. Norbert dropped the shield, and Grimwick launched a fireball at Penelope. She waved with her other hand, and a gust of wind extinguished Grimwick's flame. Grimwick wasn't planning on her being ambidextrous. She gave a wink and returned a blast of wind directly at Norbert, who only had time enough to cast a shield for himself. Grimwick, outside of Norbert's shield, charged another fireball, this one larger and stronger. He let it fly at Penelope. No amount of wind could stop it now. Just when it was upon her, she opened up her hand and a geyser of water erupted from it, extinguishing the flame immediately. The crowd roared. Grimwick hissed. "I thought you could only use wind spells, pigtails." Penelope smiled. "You'd think I'd come to a tournament with several fire-proficient mages and not learn some water spells?" Grimwick opened his mouth for another fireball, but she launched a fast-moving ball of water at Grimwick. Her ball of water hit him directly in the mouth, extinguishing his building flame and soaking him with water. Grimwick choked on the water, and he spit it out and was about to prepare for another shot, but a large stream of water hit him and carried him off the stage. Penelope smiled. "Just you and me now, Norbert." Penelope fired another blast of wind. Norbert put his shield up. Her energy shook all sides of Norbert's spell shield. Norbert gave everything he had into it. The ground underneath him broke and became a backstop. Norbert leaned into that. The only thing he could think of was to push his shield towards Penelope, hoping to knock her off the stage. He expanded his shield and walked closer. He'd have to push hard, but with Grimwick out, he didn't have any offensive skills. This was the only strategy he could think of. When Penelope noticed what Norbert was up to, she cast another spell of water with her free hand, and now wind and water hurled at Norbert as she alternated hands. Norbert's shield wobbled with the pattern of the strikes. Grimwick yelled from the arena floor, "Keep pushing, Norbert, you can't let her win." Norbert moved his legs forward as best as he could. He could feel his eyes charging with energy. He pushed. Took several more steps. He could feel his face and power glowing. Penelope's attacks were like being inside of a hurricane, and like a hurricane, the closer he moved to the source, the stronger it got. Penelope responded to Norbert's advances with more wind, more water. Norbert's arms rattled and he began to slide back again, his energy depleted. She sent one combined blast, and Norbert's shield shattered like broken glass. All that wind, all that water, all that energy rushed him. It was like being pulled underneath a current. The sensation only stopped when he landed on the hard floor. His head was dizzy. Grimwick stood over him. His look of concern was quickly wiped away with anger. "Gah! We were so close. She must have cheated." Penelope leaned over the edge of the stage with a look of concern. Then Vine grabbed her hand and held it up to the cheering crowd. Norbert propped himself up as best as he could on the floor. Several bones were broken and he couldn't stand up. But even though his hands were like wet sandbags, heavy to lift and numb to the touch, all Norbert could do was smash them together and clap for his opponent. "Don't clap for her," Grimwick hissed. "We're gonna be good sports about this, Grimwick. Besides, I think we did more than anyone could have guessed." Norbert gave Grimwick the best smile he could, but his ribs hurt. Grimwick crossed his arms and looked away. "We could have beat her." Norbert didn't believe that, but he didn't have the energy to argue with Grimwick. 2 nurses materialized beside Norbert and carried him in a stretcher to the tunnels to seek medical attention. And up next in Grimwick the Demon Cat, Chapter 21, Penelope versus Red.